All right, so on the bench today is a Tascam CD-A500. So it is a compact disc player, and it does have a cassette deck over here with Dolby B noise reduction, as you can see right there. And he's not complaining about the tape deck at all, he's complaining about the CD player. So let's power this on, and in the display I see CL05, maybe close. Not quite sure. Let's go ahead and hit the open close button here. And it does open, but the display never changed whatsoever. Nope, doesn't do anything. So I'm thinking maybe a slipping belt. Maybe I can help it. Well, I heard a clunk, but nothing else. Okay, let's go ahead and pop the top off of this unit and see what it looks like inside. Okay, well, taking a look at the inside of this unit, it was not built to be serviced. So the CD mechanism lives under this circuit board right there. So that's obviously the logic for the CD player, and it does look like it drives the fluorescent display up in here. This appears to be the cassette deck control, amplifier, whatnot. Power supply stuff going on over here in the corner. There's the main power transformer right there. It does look like that it does have a auto reverse mechanism, and I did look at the belt quality. On the tape mechanism at least, it looks perfectly fine. And if I shut this off and restart it, you'll notice that the flywheel down here does rotate for about a half a second. The tape motor says Teac on it, so I wonder if that's who built this unit for Tascam. I would expect a little bit higher quality, maybe a CD mechanism that has this board maybe over here out of the way so you can actually gain access to it. It does open fine. I never hear a loading motor continuing to run on this unit, even after I open and close the drawer again. Interesting that something does move this wire. Must be as the mechanism raises up and lowers to engage the laser. But based on the display, it tells me it wants to close, and that never actually happens. Now the disc does turn freely in here, kind of hard to see. Well, it's impossible to see for you guys, but I can rotate the disc by hand, and it's turning perfectly fine. Now the customer did say that they were playing a disc and it just quit in the middle of playing the disc. So I think the next step is I need to get this board up and maybe folded back over here somehow. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work with these connectors over here on the side, but we'll see what's going to happen. Alright, so I do have the CD mechanism out of the unit. Had to completely pull the front panel off of this thing just to gain access to this. And I do notice one thing that I'm not liking too much is this ribbon cable that plugs into the optical pickup. You can see how it's kind of canted off to the side, so I'm just wondering if some of these pins may not be making a connection. Now, I didn't do any tugging on this. It unplugged very peacefully from the top of the board. So I don't know if it got caught on something or maybe just poor assembly from the factory. I did go ahead and bridge the solder pad right here to protect the laser diode. And unfortunately, that was after the fact. I couldn't get this mechanism out before I bridged it. But once I got it out, I did hold my finger on the end of the ribbon cable to discharge static electricity. And then I put the solder bridge across this. So one thing off the bat that I do see is the laser home switch right here, those two leads. That tells the unit when the laser is in the home position. So I'm going to go ahead and clean the contacts on that, as well as these two switches down here, which are the open and close switches to let the machine know when the drawer is fully opened or fully closed. And remember, it kept trying to say close on the display. So I believe it should say open when it's open and close while it's closing, and then it should try to read the table of contents once the drawer is actually closed. So now to gain access to these two switches, I'm going to have to pull the tray loading motor off. I'll unsolder it from here, and then I believe this board will just unsnap. There's a snap right there. As far as the laser home switch, I'm going to have to unsolder these 4 leads from the turntable motor and from the sled motor. But I think everything's going to be okay. Hopefully that takes care of it. If not, then once again, it'll be a complete failure. And I'm going to try to put together all my failure videos in one video so you guys can just watch as I lose it. Okay, so these are the tray in-out switches right here. As you can see, as I move it, it does close the contact. And then the other one is the opposite direction over here. As I move it, it does close the contact. So if you notice closely, there's a small hole right here. And that's actually a pin that keeps this thing centered. So in most cases, and hopefully this will cooperate, you can just grab it and give it a tug. And that cover will actually come off. And then you can actually get to the switch. And so for this, I like to put a piece of paper in between the two halves and just drag it through a few times to clean the contacts. So I have just a piece of paper right here. I'm just going to go ahead and place it in between the contacts and just kind of close them up on it and pull it through, and that's going to actually polish the contacts. I know it's really hard to see with my thumb in the way. Now you could add a bit of acetone or some contact cleaner to this if you wanted to, but take a look at all the oxidation I got off of that thing just from a couple of simple dry passes. And we'll do the same thing with the laser home switch. Go ahead and put the paper in between the two halves, squish them together and give it some pulls just to polish up those contacts. Paper is just abrasive enough not to damage the contacts, but to actually do a fairly good job of cleaning the contacts. Hopefully you can still see it there. And you can kind of see all the gunk that came off of there as well. And now just drop that back on. Just a little bit of pressure. And there it's all back together. Okay, all back together. I have the 87 on the continuity scale. So I'll get a beep if it finds ground. And I do have the laser pushed out slightly right now. And I don't have the laser pushed out slightly. Okay, so I have open right there. And I'll bring this back into the home position. Right there. And I should get continuity here. And I do. Okay, now for the drawer. Nothing. Nothing. Let's go ahead and open the drawer all the way. So that's wide open. So one of these should be shorted now. That one is. I'll just move it back slightly. And no continuity. Go ahead and push this into the closed position, and I should get continuity here now. And I do not. Why not? Well, let's try to actually roll this into the closed position. Okay, so the laser is clamped right now. So we'll now see if we get continuity on the close switch. And we do. Well, 3 ohms. That's close enough. The microprocessor will not mind 3 ohms. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug this in all the way like that, and we'll put this thing back together and see what happens now. Okay, motor is soldered back in, and we can just go ahead and verify that with an ohmmeter check. 7 ohms, and we'll just go ahead and do an ohmmeter check over here as well. So 27, 30 ohms on that motor. And 150, really? 150 ohms? Well, I guess. Could that be the issue? We'll turn it around a few times and see what it has to say. Well, I'm certainly not liking that at all. Okay, well, I think I'm going to get the power supply out and juice this motor up and see what happens. Okay, well, I have the power supply connected to the motor. Let's go ahead and bring it up slowly and see if it tries to rotate. So there's about 1 volt. There's 2.5 volts, and then, oh, I think we got a bad motor. Oh yeah, it's got a dead spot in it. Now it's working fine. 1 volt. There's a 0.5 volt. 0.6. There's 0.7 volts. Stopped right there. I'm cranking up the voltage. 1 volt. There it actually starts turning at 1.1 volts. I think it's got a dead spot. That would explain the weird ohmmeter readings. Okay, so I have my clamp probes on the motor right now, nothing else connected. So I see 70 ohms, 29, 300 ohms, 500, 500 still, 37. Yeah, that motor's toast. Look at that. It's in the 1000K range. Yeah, that shouldn't be bouncing around like that. Well, let me grab a brand new motor and we'll test it, see what it looks like. Alright, so here is a brand spanking new motor, never been used. It's an RF310T 11400 if you need one of these things. So I've got 11.6 ohms right there. I'm just going to turn it. 12 ohms. 14. 11.9. 12 ohms. 11.9. 16. 12. So yeah, I'm thinking this thing is going to need a new turntable motor. Alright, so I went ahead and pulled the CD mechanism off of the chassis, and from all outward appearances, the height and everything appears to be exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and pry the pulley off of the old one, remove the old motor, install the new motor, and press the pulley back onto it. And as you can see, there's just a couple of thousandths of an inch protruding from the end of the pulley, so I think if I just push this down flush, we'll be totally fine. And while we're this far deep into it, we'll go ahead and give the optical pickup a quick cleaning. Regular household glass cleaner and a cotton swab, wiping in circular motions with a very, very low downward force. Then we'll take the dry end. Once again, circular motions only. I'm rotating the cotton swab as I'm wiping. And there. Looks very good. Let's throw this thing back together and see if it's going to work now. Well, this thing is like the Jelly of the Month Club. That's right, Clark. That's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year. Thank you, Eddie. So anyhow, take a look at that connection. This thing was dead to the world. And if you look at this one connection right there, you can see it is clearly detached. These connections are the power transformer connections. Now, I tested AC power from the AC cord to the board. It's perfectly fine. I checked voltage across the main power switch, which does switch the high voltage, the 120 volts, going into the power transformer, and I had 0 volts across that switch, whether it was open or closed. So I went back and I took a quick look at this, and that is what I saw. So we're going to have to run some jumper wires, and hopefully this thing will be, well, as good as it can be. Maybe not like new, but I really thought that bad motor was going to knock this thing out of the park. We were going to have a sensible repair on this unit and get it back up and running once again. Well, I'm not sure if I caused this problem or not, or what. So I just went ahead and ran jumper wires on the 3 leads of the transformer that are being used, and I'm not going to charge this time to the customer whatsoever. I'm just sticking with the main transport repair at this point. But let's go ahead and see if it powers up at this point. Okay, AC power is applied. Let's go ahead and hit the power button and see if we get different results. Yes, it's not dead any longer. Let's go ahead and open the drawer. We'll pop the customer's disc back in it, and we'll see if it's going to read the table of contents. I hear something. That's a good sign. And yes, 12 tracks, 33 minutes and 34 seconds long. So it did successfully read the table of contents. Well, next thing, let's connect speakers and see if this thing makes sounds. Okay, amplifier is connected. Let's hit play and see if we get any audio out of this unit. Although it might be copyrighted at this point, but we'll find out. And yes, I do have sound. What is this pitch control? Maybe it's only for the tape deck. But it's actually playing. So I guess we can go ahead and stop this and just check the tape deck and see if it's actually going to work. Stop. And we'll grab a tape and pop it into it and see what happens. All right, let's open it up. And I don't know if I have to change anything over here. We'll hit play. And look at that, it's working. Will it play the other direction? Yes, it will. Well, we can't listen to that. That's copyrighted. So the tape deck actually works just fine, as does the CD player at this point. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I certainly hope you enjoyed the repair. Let's turn that down just a bit. On the Tascam CD-A500. Turned out it had a bad spindle motor. I do keep these in stock. It's a fairly common failure part on especially Sony, the 5-disc CD changers, the rotary CD changers. You can order these on, I think I got this on eBay or Amazon. You just have to make sure that the shaft length is correct. But if you just go ahead and type in RF310T-11400, you should get some options for various shaft lengths. Now, I normally order 3 or 4 of these at a time, and I think I still have 1 or 2 of these left. I've used a couple in the past, but they are handy to have in stock if you service CD players. But that's going to be it. The end of the Tascam CD-A500. I certainly hope you enjoyed this video on repairing the Tascam. Go ahead and leave me a question, a comment, a concern down below, good or bad. I try to respond to the comments when I have time. While you're done there, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. It really lets YouTube know that I'm doing a good job, and it helps recommend these videos to people like yourself that might be interested in the same types of repair. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at NorCal715. You can email me, NorCal715videos@gmail.com. That is the best way to contact me. Please be patient. I do have a full-time job, and I do these repairs in my spare time. If you try to contact me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, please be aware it might be weeks or even months before I respond. I rarely check those messages. Please, if you want to contact me, use the Gmail address only. Remember, with your help, we can try to keep these things out of the landfill, out of the recycle bin, and out of the e-waste facility. Everyone, thank you for making it to the end of this video. I really do appreciate it. Everyone, have a great day. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. Stand by for possible bloopers. Okay, well, let's go ahead and pop the top out. And I know it's out of focus. Let's try to refocus. Okay, so that part's all back together. Let's go ahead and check the switches. This is the laser home switch. Oops. That wasn't expected to happen. All right, take two. Oh, after I solder these connections. Okay, well, we're back to the gift that keeps on giving. I got this thing all back together, and it's totally dead to the world. It will not power up regardless of what I do. I measured a couple voltages. There's no voltage coming out of the power transformer. So the first thing I want to look at is the connections to the power transformer, and take a look at this connection right there. As I move this little plastic shield, it is not making connection. The copper trace is broken. How did this thing work 30 minutes ago? I don't get it. Well, anyhow, it's going to need some jumper wires. So here we go. We're going to have a